was
When
27
I
years
was
old,
27
I
years
left a
old,
very
I
demanding
left a
job in
very
management
demanding
consulting for a
consulting
job that
for a
was
job
even
that
more
was
demanding,
even more demanding,
teaching.
teaching.
I went to teach
I
seventh
went to teach
graders
seventh
math in
grader
the New York
math
City
in
public
New York
schools.
City public
And like
school.
any
And
teacher,
like
I
any
made quizzes and
teacher, I made
tests, I gave out
criticism
homework
tests, gave it
assignments. When
homework
the work came
assignment.
back,
When the work
I
came back,
calculated
I
grades.
calculated grades.
What struck
What
me
struck
was that
me
IQ
was
was
IQ,
not the
not
only
the
difference
only
between my
difference between
best
my
and my
best
worst
and my
students.
worst student.
Some of my
Some
strongest
of my
performers
strongest
did not
performers
have
did not
stratospheric
have
IQ scores.
stratospheric IQ
Some of
score.
my smartest
Some of
kids
smarter
weren't
kids
doing so well.
doing so well.
And that got me thinking.
That left me
The
thinking.
kinds of things you need
Kind
to
of
learn in
thing you
7th
need
grade
to
math,
learn seventh
sure, they're
math,
hard.
sure are hard.
Ratios, decimals, the
Ratio,
area of a
area of
parallelogram.
parent
But these
around.
concepts are
But
not
this concept
impossible.
not
And I was
impossible.
firmly
And I was
convinced
firmly
that every
convinced
one of my
that
students
every one of my
could
students
learn
could
the
learn
material
the
if they
material
worked hard and
if
long
they
enough.
work hard long enough.
After several more
After
years of
7 more
teaching,
years
I came
teaching,
to the
I came
conclusion
to
that what we
conclusion
need in
that what we
education
need
is a much
education
better
is much
understanding
better
of students
understanding
and
of
learning
student
from a
and learning
motivational
from
perspective,
motivational
from a
perspective,
psychological
for
perspective.
psychological
In
vertical
education, the one thing
education. One
we know how
thing
to measure
we know how
best
major
is
best
IQ.
is IQ.
But what if
But
doing well
what
in
is the
school
doing well in
and in
school
life
and
depends
life?
on
It
much
depends on
more
much
than your
more
ability to
than
learn
ability
quickly
to
and easily.
quickly and easily.
So I left the
So I
classroom
left the
and I went to
classroom,
graduate school to
went to
become a
our school to
psychologist.
become psychologist.
I started studying
I
kids and
started
adults
getting
in
kids
all kinds of super
on
challenging
super
settings.
challenging
And in
setting.
every study, my
And every
question
study
was,
my
who
question
is
was,
successful
who
here
is
and
successful
why?
here and why?
My research team and
My
I went
research
to
team
West Point
went
Military
West Point
Academy.
Military.
We tried to predict
We
which
tried to
cadets would
protect
stay
which
in
cadets
military
stay in
training and
military
which would drop
training,
out.
which would drop out.
We went to the National
We went to
Spelling
the
Bee
national
and tried to predict
spelling
which
bee, tried to
children
which
would advance
children
farthest
would
in
even
competition.
a competition.
We studied rookie
We
teachers
studied
working in really tough
working in really
neighborhoods,
tough
asking
neighborhood,
which teachers are
asking
still
which
going to be here
teachers
in
gonna be
teaching by
here
the
in
end of the
teaching
school
by the end
year.
of the school
And
year.
of those,
And
who will be the
although
most
how
effective at
effective
improving
and
learning outcomes for
improving
their
learning
students?
outcome for the
We
student.
partnered with private companies asking which of these
Asking which
salespeople
of
is
the
going to keep their jobs
salespeople
and
the
who's going to
job
earn the most
who
money.
got the money.
In all those very different
Other very
contexts,
different contests.
one characteristic
One
emerged
characteristic
as a
emerged
significant
as a
predictor of
significant
success.
factor
And it
success.
wasn't social
Wasn't
intelligence, it wasn't good
intelligent,
looks,
what a good look,
physical health,
physical
and it
health,
wasn't IQ.
and wasn't IQ.
It was grit.
It was rich.
Grit is passion
Grit
and
it was
perseverance
passion,
for very
persevering for
long-term
very
goals.
long-term goal.
Grit is having
Grit
stamina.
having stamina.
Grit is sticking with your
a
future,
taking future.
day in, day out,
Day in, day
not
out.
just for the week,
Not for
not
the
just for the
week,
month,
not just for the
but
month,
for years.
but for year.
And working
And
really
working
hard
really
to make
hard
that future a
to make
reality.
that future reality.
Grit is living life
Grit
like it's a
living
marathon,
life,
not a
marathon,
sprint.
not a sprint.
A few years ago,
A few
I
years
started
ago,
studying grit in the
started
Chicago
with
public
Chicago
schools.
Public School.
I asked thousands of
I
high
asked
school
thousands
juniors
of high
to
school
take grit
juniors to take
questionnaires,
grit
and then waited
questionnaire
around more than a
and
year
waited
to
around
see who
more
would
than a year
graduate.
graduate.
Turns out that
Turned out
grittier
that
kids were
really
significantly more likely to graduate, even when I matched them
Even
on
if I
every
tried them
characteristic I
every
could measure.
characteristic
Things
measure,
like family
things like
income,
family
standardized
income,
achievement test
standardized
scores,
achievement
even
score,
how safe
even
kids
how
felt when they
safe
were at
kids
school.
when they were at
So
school.
it's not just at
So
West
it's
Point
not
or the
West
National
Point
Spelling
or
Bee that grit
Spelling
matters.
Bee
It's
matter.
also in
It's
school,
also in school,
especially for kids at risk
especially
for
for
dropping
kids
out.
for dropping out.
To me, the most
To
shocking
me,
thing
the
about grit
shocking about
is
grit
how little we
is
know,
little we
how
know,
little science
how
knows
little
about building
science
it.
know about
Every
building it.
day, parents and
Every
teachers ask
day,
me,
teacher
how do
asks
I
me,
build grit in
how do I
kids?
build
What do
grit
I
in
do
kids?
to teach
What do
kids
I
a
do to
solid
take
work
to
ethic?
solid?
How do I keep them
How do I
motivated for
keep
the
them
long run?
motivated versus the
The
long
honest
run?
answer
The
is,
honest answer
I don't
is,
know.
I don't know.
What I do know is that
What I
talent
do
doesn't
know,
make
what
you
the
gritty.
talent make you
Our data
gritty.
show very
Always
clearly
very
that there are
clearly
many
that
talented
there are many
individuals
talented
who simply
individuals
do
who
not follow
simply do
through
not
on their
follow
commitments.
through a
In fact,
commitment.
in our
In
data,
fact, our
grit
data
is usually
rich,
unrelated
usually
or even
unrelated,
inversely
or
related
even
to measures of
a
talent.
measure of talent.
So far, the best
So
idea
far, the
I've heard
best
about
idea
building
I
grit
heard
in
the building
kids
with and
is something
kids
called
is
growth
something called
mindset.
role mindset.
This is an idea developed
is
at
an
Stanford
idea
University by Carol Dweck,
by
and it is the
Carol
belief
and is the belief
that the ability to
the
learn is not
ability to
fixed,
not
that it
fixed
can change
and can
with your
change
effort.
with your efforts.
Dr. Dweck has shown that
Dr.
when
Dweck
kids
showed
read
that
and
when
learn
kids
about the
read and learn
brain
a
and how it
brain,
changes and
how it
grows in
changes
response
and
to challenge,
respond
they're much
challenge,
more likely to
much more likely
persevere
to
when they
persevere
fail
when they fail,
because they
because
don't believe that
they don't
failure is a
believe that
permanent
failure
condition.
a permanent condition.
So growth mindset is
So
a great
growth
idea for
mindset
building
a great
grit,
idea,
but we need
but we
more.
need more.
And that's where I'm going to end
And
my
that's
remarks, because that's where we are.
because
That's the
where
work
we are.
that stands
That's where
before
can
us.
stand
We need to take
before.
our
We
best
need to take
ideas,
the best
our
idea,
strongest
our
intuitions,
strongest
and we need to
intuition,
test
and we
them.
need to test
We need to
them.
measure
We
whether
need
we've
to
been successful,
successful,
and we have to be
and
willing
we
to
have to be
fail,
willing
to be
fail,
wrong,
to be wrong,
to start over
to
again with
start over
lessons
again
learned.
with lesson learned.
In other words,
And in
we need
other
to be
words, we
gritty
need to be greedy
about getting our
about
kids
getting a
grittier.
kid readier.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When I was
When I
27
was
years old,
27
I
years
left a
old,
very
I
demanding
left a
job in
very
management
demanding job
consulting
in
for a job that was
for a
even
job
more
that
demanding,
even more demanding,
teaching.
teaching.
I went to teach
I
7th
went to teach
graders
seventh
math
grade
in the New
math
York City public
in the New York
schools.
City public
And like
school.
any
And
teacher,
like any
I made quizzes
teacher,
and
I made
tests,
quizzes
I
and
gave out
tests,
homework assignments.
gave homework
When the work
assignment.
came back,
When the
I
work come
calculated
back, I
grades.
calculated grades.
What struck me
What struck
was
me
that IQ
was that
was not the
IQ
only
was not
difference
the only
between my
difference
best
between my
and my
best
worst
and my
students.
worst students.
Some of my strongest
Some of my
performers
strongest
did not
performers
have
did not
stratospheric IQ
have strict
scores.
IQ score.
Some of my smartest
Some of
kids
my smart
weren't
kids
doing so well.
are doing so well.
And that got me thinking.
And that led me
The kinds
thinking.
of things you need to
Kind of
learn in
thing
7th
you
grade
need to
math,
learn in seventh
sure,
math.
they're hard.
Sure, they're
Ratios,
hard.
decimals, the
Ratio,
area of a
the
parallelogram.
area,
But these
the
concepts
area,
are not
but these
impossible.
concepts were not
And I was
spoke.
firmly
And I was
convinced
firmly
that every
convinced
one of my
that every
students
one of my
could
students
learn
could
the
learn
material
the
if they
material
worked hard and
if
long
they
enough.
work hard long enough.
After several more years
After
of
7
teaching,
more years of
I came to
teaching,
the
I came
conclusion
to
that what we
conclusion
need in
that what we
education
need for
is a much better
education, much
understanding
better
of students
understanding
and
of
learning
student
from
of
a
learning
motivational
from
perspective, from
motivational
a
perspective,
psychological
for
perspective.
psychological
In
perspective.
education,
In
the one
education,
thing
one
we
thing
know how to measure
we know
best
measure the
is
best
IQ.
is IQ.
But what if
But
doing
what
well in
is what in
school
where is
and in
school
life
and life
depends on much
depends
more
on much
than your
more
ability to
than
learn
the ability
quickly
to
and
quickly
easily.
and easily.
So I left the
So I
classroom
left the
and I went to
classroom,
graduate school to
went to
become a
graduate school and
psychologist.
become psychology.
I started studying
I
kids and
studied
adults in
kids
all
and
kinds of
adults
super
on kinds
challenging
of super
settings.
challenging
And in
settings.
every study, my
And
question
every
was,
study my
who
questions
is
was,
successful
who
here
is
and
successful
why?
here and why?
My research team and
My
I went
research
to
team
West
went
Point
at
Military
West Point
Academy.
Military
We tried to
Academy.
predict
We
which
tried
cadets
to
would
protect
stay in
would
military
stay in
training and
military
which would drop
training,
out.
which drop out.
We went to the National
We went to
Spelling
the
Bee
National
and tried to
Spelling
predict
Bee
which
and tried to
children
which
would
children
advance
would
farthest in
advance
competition.
in competition.
We studied rookie
We study
teachers
work
working in
teacher
really tough
working
neighborhoods,
neighborhood,
asking which
asking
teachers are still
which
going to be
teacher
here
is
in
going to be
teaching by
here
the
in
end of the
teaching
school
by the
year.
end of school
And
year.
of those,
And of
who will be the
those,
most
who
effective
will be the most
at improving
effective
learning
and
outcomes for
improving
their students?
outcome for
We
students.
partnered with private
We
companies
partnered with
asking
private
which of these
company asking
salespeople is
what
going
did
to
the
keep their jobs
salespeople call the
and who's going to
job.
earn the most money. In all those very different
Under
contexts,
different contexts,
one characteristic
one
emerged
characteristic
as a
emerged
significant predictor of
as
success. And
success
it wasn't social
and
intelligence, it wasn't good looks,
was good look,
physical health,
physical
and it
health,
wasn't IQ.
and wasn't IQ.
It was grit.
It's were rich.
Grit is passion
Grit
and
is
perseverance
passion and
for very long-term
very
goals.
long-term
Grit is
goal.
having
Which
stamina.
is having
Grit is
stamina.
sticking with
Which
your
is
future,
sticking with your
day in,
future,
day out,
day in, day
not
out,
just for the week,
not just for
not
the
just
week,
for the month,
not just for the
but
month,
for years.
but for years.
And working
And
really
working
hard
really
to make that
hard
future a
to make that
reality.
future reality.
Grit is living life
Grit
like it's a
living
marathon,
life,
not a
marathon,
sprint.
not a sprint.
A few years ago,
A few
I
years
started
ago,
studying grit in the
started
Chicago
to read
public schools.
Chicago Public School.
I asked thousands of
I
high
asked
school
thousands
juniors
of high
to
school
take grit
juniors to take
questionnaires,
grit
and
questionnaire,
then waited around
and
more
then
than a
waited
year to
around
see
more
who would
than a year
graduate.
to see who graduate.
Turns out, that grittier kids were significantly more likely to graduate, even when I matched them on every characteristic I could measure. Things like family income, standardized achievement test scores, even how safe kids felt when they were at school. So it's not just at West Point or the National Spelling Bee that grit matters. It's also in school, especially for kids at risk for dropping out. To me, the most shocking thing about grit is how little we know, how little science knows about building it. Every day, parents and teachers ask me, how do I build grit in kids? What do I do to teach kids a solid work ethic? How do I keep them motivated for the long run? The honest answer is, I don't know. What I do know is that talent doesn't make you gritty. Our data show very clearly that there are many talented individuals who simply do not follow through on their commitments. In fact, in our data, grit is usually unrelated or even inversely related to measures of talent. So far, the best idea I've heard about building grit in kids is something called growth mindset. This is an idea developed at Stanford University by Carol Dweck, and it is the belief that the ability to learn is not fixed, that it can change with your effort. Dr. Dweck has shown that when kids read and learn about the brain and how it changes and grows in response to challenge, they're much more likely to persevere when they fail, because they don't believe that failure is a permanent condition. So growth mindset is a great idea for building grit, but we need more. And that's where I'm going to end my remarks, because that's where we are. That's the work that stands before us. We need to take our best ideas, our strongest intuitions, and we need to test them. We need to measure whether we've been successful, and we have to be willing to fail, to be wrong, to start over again with lessons learned. In other words, we need to be gritty about getting our kids grittier. Thank you. When I was 27 years old, I left a very demanding job in management consulting for a job that was even more demanding, teaching. I went to teach seventh graders math in the New York City public schools. And like any teacher, I made quizzes and tests, I gave out homework assignments. When the work came back, I calculated grades. What struck me was that IQ was not the only difference between my best and my worst students. Some of my strongest performers did not have stratospheric IQ scores. Some of my smartest kids weren't doing so well. And that got me thinking. Kinds of things you need to learn in 7th grade math. Sure, they're hard. Ratios, decimals, the area of a parallelogram. But these concepts are not impossible. And I was firmly convinced that every one of my students could learn the material if they worked hard and long enough. After several more years of teaching, I came to the conclusion that what we need in education is a much better understanding of students and learning from a motivational perspective, from a psychological perspective. In education, the one thing we know how to measure best is IQ. But what if doing well in school and in life depends on much more than your ability to learn quickly and easily? So I left the classroom and I went to graduate school to become a psychologist. I started studying kids and adults in all kinds of super challenging settings. And in every study, my question was, who is successful here and why? My research team and I went to West Point Military Academy. We tried to predict which cadets would stay in military training and which would drop out. We went to the National Spelling Bee and tried to predict which children would advance farthest in competition. We studied rookie teachers working in really tough neighborhoods, asking which teachers are still going to be here in teaching by the end of the school year? And of those, who will be the most effective at improving learning outcomes for their students? We partnered with private companies asking which of these salespeople is going to keep their jobs, and who's going to earn the most money. In all those very different contexts, one characteristic emerged as a significant predictor of success. And it wasn't social intelligence, it wasn't good looks, physical health, and it wasn't IQ. It was grit.
It was reach.
Grit is passion and perseverance for very long-term goals. Grit is having stamina. Grit is sticking with your future. Day in, day out, not just for the week, not just for the month, but for years. And working really hard to make that future a reality. Grit is living life like it's a marathon, not a sprint. A few years ago, I started studying grit in the Chicago Public Schools. I asked thousands of high school juniors to take grit questionnaires, and then waited around more than a year to see who would graduate. Turns out that grittier kids were significantly more likely to graduate, even when I matched them on every characteristic I could measure. Things like family income, standardized achievement test scores, even how safe kids felt when they were at school. So it's not just at West Point or the National Spelling Bee that grit matters, it's also in school, especially for kids at risk for dropping out. To me, the most shocking thing about grit is how little we know, how little science knows about building it. Every day, parents and teachers ask me, how do I build grit in kids? What do I do to teach kids a solid work ethic? How do I keep them motivated for the long run? The honest answer is, I don't know. What I do know is that talent doesn't make you gritty. Our data show very clearly that there are many talented individuals who simply do not follow through on their commitments. In fact, in our data, grit is usually unrelated or even inversely related to measures of talent. So far, the best idea I've heard about building grit in kids is something called growth mindset. This is an idea developed at Stanford University by Carol Dweck, and it is the belief that the ability to learn is not fixed, that it can change with your effort. Dr. Dweck has shown that when kids read and learn about the brain and how it changes and grows in response to challenge, they're much more likely to persevere when they fail, because they don't believe that failure is a permanent condition. So growth mindset is a great idea for building grit, but we need more. And that's where I'm going to end my remarks, because that's where we are. That's the work that stands before us. We need to take our best ideas, our strongest intuitions, and we need to test them. We need to measure whether we've been successful, and we have to be willing to fail, to be wrong, to start over again with lessons learned. In other words, we need to be gritty about getting our kids grittier. Thank you.
Thank you.